Hello everyone, welcome to the panel. And we have with us Ms. Jaya Vaidyanathan, who's CEO of PCT Digital, Mr. Yogesh Valunchkar, who's the Director of TNS Bank, and Mr. Ashish Anand, who's the CEO of Proof Finance. Welcome all. Thank you for joining us on this panel.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on board. Jaya, let's begin with you. When we spoke about earlier, you did mention about how deep tech is helping finance move from a preventive role to more of a forensic adoption. Explain us a little bit about it and how is that going to benefit the sector?
I think that one of the biggest challenges that the financial services sector has continued to have is that we are always looking at the system from a preventive lens. Like once the money's left the bank, for instance, let's talk about diversion of funds. After it's left the bank, it's a whole system. You have to go through collections, you have to go through legal action before you see the taxpayers' money come back, and it's going to be many years before you could see it. Instead, what if you looked at it from an lens of preventive nature, as in you used big data, you used predictive analytics, you used artificial intelligence, and you kind of figured out when you're setting up a beneficiary, for instance, was he in the news for the long reasons? Was he connected to one of the directorships in other companies, which kind of was skeptical? Was he kind of, was the company subject to frequent management audits? The director's dumb shares. So there's a lot of information out in the public realm that you can use to kind of figure out and get early alerts to say that is kind of going to be a problem potentially, and how do you kind of overcome? And that is going to kind of shape the way that people are looking at it. There's a lot, not only in terms of frauds, but if you were a lender and a sector was going to be under stress, could be a lot of different reasons, right? It could be due to, crop prices. It could be because of steel prices or the raw material that comprises or goes to a particular industry. You could kind of look at the stress that the system is going to have from an early signs perspective, and you could adjust the covenants. You could look at it in terms of saying, do I lend more to a particular sector or less to a particular sector? So what is the pattern going to be like, and how do I take it forward? So look at it completely, not just in terms of frauds, but also in terms of regular loans, and look at how do you adjust your ratios and how do you kind of lend from a preventive measure, and deep tech completely helps you kind of drive in that direction.
Thanks, Jaya, for that insight. Yogesh, let's move to you. Jaya, of course, mentioned a new approach we can take and how deep tech helps us. What are the challenges in the system currently for the adoption of emerging technologies, and what are the action points that can be used to bridge the gap?
Thank you, deep tech and cyber media. The topic is about like how we can adopt this new technology. See, I belong to a mid-sized cooperative bank, and the adoption of technology in past few years has been predominant, and we have seen a 360-degree change over the business models, the customer requirements, or the upcoming technologies. Okay, so tuning to these changes has been a challenge, but definitely with a proper focus and well set business goals, we can definitely achieve this. I'll give you a classic example. See, we are creating a lot of data. Okay, earlier there were manual systems, so all the data to get that data in at one place was a nightmare. It was next to impossible. Now we are putting lot of efforts, manual efforts, technology efforts, a lot of budget assigned to that to create this digital data. Okay, so this digital data is the biggest asset of the bank, or every bank or every institution who is creating this digital data. So we should identify that this is our biggest asset, and we should build our business model around it. We have a lot of emerging technologies and trends which can leverage or which can empower our team to actually leverage this data to get better business results. Okay, see, currently, for example, take a nice quick example of a loan. Customer, when he needs loan, when he needs loan as of yesterday, and he comes to bank today. So that is the emergency that the customer has. So this emergency, if we want to address, we have to adopt new technology which can quickly do all his due diligence, all his credit scoring, and all kind of checks, and derive the scoring model and instantly give the loan. So bank have to work on two aspects. One, I have to identify and verify the credibility of the borrower, and second, I have to improve the TAT. Okay, so all on both these, I have to balance it out, and I have to give at the most possible turnaround time or most quickly disbursements. So for this, manually it is not possible, but there are all the digital features which are available. The AI/ML predictive features are available, or the analytics features are available. Especially if it's old customers, I can analyze his past history, and definitely with the help of AI/ML algorithms, I can predict his future, or what could be his credibility, what could be his eligibility. So if I have that data ready instantly, it makes me very easy and quick. And of course, I will be forced to take decision based on that parameters. See, today banker needs some data so that he can derive at the decision to disburse that loan. That requirement, I think this new technology can suffice very quickly, instantly, and reliably.
Jaya and you both spoke about a new model, emerging technologies to support the models. But are the infrastructure in the country ready? Do we have to modernize the systems? And if so, then what is the approach for it?
With respect to this infrastructure changes, definitely we have seen a big change in infrastructure requirement. Like for example, in my bank, 6 years before, the number of servers were 30, 35, at the most 40, which has now gone up beyond 100. Okay, so today we are talking about making all the service or customer endpoints or touch points, service touch points, making available 24/7. Okay, so when I have to make the entire infrastructure available 24/7, all 365 days, there will be challenge, because when I talk about infrastructure, it is people, process, and technology. Okay, so I have to work on all these three aspects. Only by putting the latest infrastructure in terms of hardware and software will not suffice. I should have a skilled manpower and train them, and the processes defined that ensures that the delivery model is as per the regulation expectations. So on these grounds, with the latest changes and customer expectations, I think we should focus what is my core business, because many times this technology, the expectations are going to grow. Okay, with the technology innovations and all, deep tech and all, definitely there will be more innovations coming on, and more investment in terms of man and money, of course, that will be expected. But the bankers, first we should focus on my core. My core is banking. Okay, so keeping core intact, how I can leverage the infrastructure to build my core better. Okay, so for this, I think we should go for the dynamic infrastructure provisioning model, which can be recently awarded. There are many players who are offering dynamic infrastructure on clouds and all, because that will actually give me flexibility to focus more on my core business activities. The way infrastructure is changing, if I put my own efforts, that may divert, it may, the answer may be different for different size of business. I'm talking from my size of business houses, where my core activity I have to focus more. So I should leverage, or I'm leveraging wherever I am getting the ready-made solution in terms of infrastructure, whether it is hardware, software, or even the resources. More faster, reliable, and preferred by customer. Okay, so keeping my priorities intact, I think we should leverage on the technology innovations, and that should be the strategy.
Thank you, Yogesh. Uh, Let me ask you this. Now, you of course covered the infrastructure part, and when we spoke about privacy, we cannot ignore the part of security as well,
Yeah.
because this is a critical sector with sensitive data and a lot of laws on data localization. Now, how do you adopt deep tech in finance to ensure transparency and security?
See, the more channels you open up in any financial institution, the more you're exposed to some, cyber risks. That is kind of, it's more about how you kind of protect something that we've learned from so many other sectors. I mean, in terms of finance has kind of looked outward towards other sectors to learn on the cybersecurity issue. For instance, take the issue of power sector, power grids. That has a lot in terms of cybersecurity attacks and things like that. And in finance, the penalties are more because you're a custodian of trust. Transparency, I think, is something that is much more easily kind of understood in finance, because you see a debit, you see a credit, right? That's the fundamental of the business. So I think in terms of transparency, we've been a little bit much ahead. It's more about transparency to the end user in terms of user experiences, in terms of source of funds. That is a classification, and a lot more of what you do in terms of bad assets recovery, that needs to be more on the transparency side, is something that I would look for. Rest of that, I think, in terms of like security, is again tied to privacy. Security is tied to a lot of regulations. So I think look is something that I would strongly suggest.
Sure. Thank you. Yogesh, your view on?
Yeah. So in terms of transparency, as Jaya was rightly saying, we should more think of extending it to my end customers. Okay. So for example, if customer wants to avail loan, okay, can I extend the eligibility calculator to the customer? Okay. So let it be transparent. He should not feel like sometimes the customer feel obliged of or fear of rejection that has. Okay, so that is one point. And be transparent. You check your own eligibility. Most of the banks have extended already, but primarily this could be the thought process of extending it to customer, be it a loan availing or be it a business process as KYC. If we make it transparent to the customer, I think we should use technology so that transparency can be expanded. And within the organizations also, the decision making, if we have a workflow kind of mechanisms in place using the latest technologies, so I think the decision making and the workflows can be transparent. That can actually resolve many conflicts that arise of, because my workload is increasing, my pressures and the tasks are challenging. So in all this, if there is a transparency, then I think the conflicts can be minimized and we can get better business outputs. In terms of security, I would say that is the credential of the organizations. In coming years, the customer will also ask for what kind of security framework you are ensuring. So the respective regulators, be it SEBI or RBI, they have already laid down the milestone or the framework for the organizations to follow. I think that framework itself is pretty comprehensive. What kind of framework I should deploy and I should ensure. And there are players in the market which will help me to deploy this framework and do frequent audit or regular audits of that framework. See, because more secured mechanism, I'll just give you one example. Like there are many frauds that are reported related to debit card. So in my bank, we did one innovative thing. Apart from just lock, unlock on SMS, you can also set your own card limit. Okay. So the one feature is lock, unlock, or you can report as lost on a single SMS. Secondly, you can also set your own card limit. So I think this kind of transparency plus security. So there is a blend of transparency plus security which we can extend to the customers. So we should come up with all these kind of features which can extend more transparency and increase the customer stickiness to the bank. And of course, it's related to my credential of my banks. So all these things, I think the leadership have to manage the balance between all these things and move forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Yogesh. And Jaya and Yogesh, we have spoken and gotten some interesting insights in not just how technology can influence various decision making within the bank and also bring out important features in terms of transparency, efficiency, security. But we've also spoken about how new business models are coming up, how automation is important, and also with buzzwords like metaverse and AR, VR, quantum coming in, how that can be used for finance. And finance is leading the way, as Jaya has mentioned, and hope to look forward to much more innovation coming in. We have with us Mr. Ashish Anand, CEO of Brew Finance. Welcome, Ashish, to the panel.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. Thanks a lot to Cyber Media and DataQuest to invite me to this panel.
Glad to have you on board, Ashish. Ashish, talk to us a little bit about the role of deep tech in the business decisions that you take as a new age fintech company.
Sure. So, Brew Finance and our associate firm World both are into blockchain space, wherein we use blockchain technology to solve the problems of the banking industry and bring financial inclusion to farmers using a very innovative warehouse receipt finance ecosystem in which farmers deposit their crop, and based upon the crop's value, we give them a loan without any other security, without any further credit check, etc. So where, as I mentioned, the major use which we of deep tech which we use, we are using almost three type of deep tech into our solutions. The primary solution is of course the blockchain platform, which provides a low risks ecosystem for the lenders to lend against by creating immutable records, by creating a shared ledger among the ecosystem participants. So that's the first one. In addition to that, we also use IoT solutions to get the information. As I mentioned, these are so. So the second part of the solution which we use is the IoT solutions, wherein we are using data like warehouse locations, information from the warehouse web bridge, etc., to get a clear picture of the deposits made in the warehouse, because these deposits are the core security for us. We don't use any other security for lending. So it is very important for us to know that the security, the collateral, the crop is in the warehouse. Also important for us to know that what is the quality of the warehouse. And that is where some of the AI solutions are being used to understand that what is the quality of the commodity deposited in the warehouse. What will be the price of that commodity if the quality is XYG? What sort of foreign material, etc., are into that? So those are some of the things which we have in the IoT front as well. And this analysis again requires some sort of AI-based analysis about the quality based upon the pictorial images. So while the core is the blockchain, we also support this blockchain with the other deep tech solutions like IoT and AI solutions.
Understood, Ashish. And those are some interesting collaborations with blockchain, with IoT, with AI and ML. Now, you are a new age fintech company, but also there are upcoming models of finance. And how will deep tech influence those?
So if we talk about upcoming models of finance, so two things which we will look at in this aspect. One is our decentralized finance, right, which is changing the paradigm of how typically financial industry has been organized and how it has served people. And now that is changing by decimating the boundaries across the globe between the users and the consumers of the financial industry. So that's one part which we will talk about. And the second part, I would say that embedded finance is coming up in a big way, where anybody and everybody is becoming either a fintech, even though fintech was not part of their business, or they are becoming data feeders to the fintechs or the banking industry. So these are the two changes which we see where deep tech is creating quite a lot of differential. Decentralized finance is a no-brainer. The blockchain has changed this world altogether. And talking about embedded finance, in embedded finance, as we see, for example, in agriculture sector, some sort of embedded finance is built into our solution as well, where warehouses are able to lend to farmers without the need of get farmers need of going to the bank branches,
Mm.
for example. In the dairy sector, we have seen that the dairy sector is using solutions like IoT to provide financing to the farmers, etc. So embedded finance in one way is changing the world. Today, we see that wherever there is a data, there is transactions, those can be used to create alternative credit history. And that way, even those organizations, even for example, a cab driving organization like Ola or Uber, their data, uh, a food delivery app data, for example, they all are being part of the embedded finance ecosystem. And the big techs are certainly coming into uh, big techs of the world like Google, Amazon, etc., are coming big way into this ecosystem. So these are the two core changes which I see are being affected. But at the same time, if I talk about a bit in future, may not be today, then I see that quantum computing will be changing the way fraud analytics is done. Data predictiveness is done for the borrowers in the banking and financial industry. Of course, it's a bit far ahead. And similarly, the AR VR technologies in the metaverse, because
Mm.
we will see that even banking will move into metaverse to a certain extent. So we will see some of those things getting implemented over next few years in the quantum and metaverse as well. From the
How do you think that metaverse and the fintech collaboration is going to pan out?
So if we talk about the metaverse, what is happening today? I mean, metaverse is just starting, but we have seen that people recently someone got married in metaverse,
Yeah.
right? People are selling land, I mean, virtual land over there. And we all know that gaming is a big industry where everybody, all the players keep exchanging, they will keep buying certain new elements, certain new avatars, uh, certain new clothes, etc., virtual clothes, and all that is happening in the metaverse. So think of this. There is a person who has bought some say sort of some virtual land in Decentraland or any other metaverse platform. And now that we expect that price to keep going, or we see a record that is it possible to make that virtual land as a collateral,
Mm.
borrow money against that? Very much possible. Also, when the metaverse happens, there will be requirement of payments because the transactions are taking place. So that those payments, etc., will also terminology. Of course, crypto is going to support that to a very large extent, and decentralized finance will be part of that. So certainly, that is going to help change. I mean, I would say not change, but that is going to create a new paradigm for some of the fintechs in going in a few years to come.
Thank you, Ashish. That's an interesting anecdote and interesting times ahead for you also.
Sure.
And thank you for sharing your insights on the advent of deep tech in creating new models of finance and how you're using deep tech to make business decisions at ProFinance. Glad to have you on the panel. Thank you, Ashish.